who is my neighbor? Is it the man beaten and robbed on the side of the road? Is it the Samaritan? Who am I in the story? Who are you? So let's start by taking a look at the parable of the Good Samaritan. So starting in Luke 10:25. On one occasion, an expert of the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, the man, answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took out 2 denarii, and gave them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have." Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." So in the story in Luke, Jesus doesn't specifically answer the man's question, at least not to the point where we think he should. Jesus doesn't say, well, the neighbor is, when the man asks, "Who is my neighbor?" He doesn't say, "Your neighbor is the Samaritan." He doesn't say, "Your neighbor is the man who's beaten and robbed on the side of the road." It leaves a lot. I enjoy this story because it leaves you to think. So he says, the man asks, "Who is my neighbor?" Well, he says, who is the man's neighbor? The man beaten and robbed on the side of the road. Jesus asks, who is his neighbor? And it's interesting. I never thought about it before. This was I heard it in, I think it was a Bible Project podcast episode, and I don't remember which one it was. That the teacher of the law, this Jewish man, who's asking Jesus this question. When Jesus asks him, "Who is the man's neighbor?" he can't even say the Samaritan. And we got to think about that. So the Jewish people and the Samaritans in that day despised each other. And I don't want to get too into anything because I don't want to. I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But let's just say in our current culture right now, let's just say that it's perhaps look at it as the Russians and the Ukrainians right now in our world culture, or in the U.S. culture. Let's say the far right Republicans and the far left Democrats. The far right conservatives, far left liberals. So think about it. Perhaps even more dramatic than that. And the man can't even say that the Samaritan. He can't bring his mouth to say that the Samaritan is the man's neighbor. The man just says, the one who had mercy on him. Even that is, I think, telling in this, where Jesus is asking, who's the man's neighbor? He says, well, the one who had mercy on him. So I want to look into this a little bit more here, because this teacher of the law comes to Jesus and he says, he asks, who is my neighbor? Well, Jesus, his question back is, who is the man's neighbor? Well, this would put him in the man's position, right? If who is my neighbor? Well, who is his neighbor? So that puts him immediately into that position of the man beaten and robbed on the side of the road. But in response to that, when he says, the man's reply was, well, the neighbor is the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus says, go and do likewise. That also puts him in the Samaritan's position. We think a lot that, we want to be in the Good Samaritan's position. But we also have to look at this and realize that that also puts you in the beaten and robbed position. We also have to realize that there's another role here. There's another role here. It's the priest and the Levite role. But they are not considered the neighbors. They aren't even considered candidates to be the neighbor. But for me personally, I feel like I tend to fit that priest and Levite role more than I would like to admit. And I would I think that's where we should focus is, the three roles in the story of the Good Samaritan, the parable of the Good Samaritan. Because I think we do often put ourselves we want to be in that Good Samaritan role. But I also play the part of the priest and the Levite quite often. And me personally, in my life, uh, I like to. I don't say I like to, but I tend to put myself into the role of the man who's been beaten and robbed, and especially dealing with mental health struggles, where I want to be quote unquote victimized, and for some reason that makes us feel better that we're in that role. And sometimes we do play that role, and your neighbor is the one who comes and bandages your wounds and takes care of you and pays for your room at the inn, pays for your boarding, whether it's metaphorical or literal. That is your neighbor. But we are also called to be the Samaritan, the one who takes care of the person who's who's beaten and robbed. And we're called to bandage them and lift them up and take care of them. And so, even though we can play we can play all three roles in our lives. I think it's important for us to focus on uh, letting go of the role of the priest and the Levite, and we got to stop overlooking the people who are beaten down, the quote unquote outcasts. We got to stop overlooking those people in need and lifting them up. And I say we because I'm included in that. I often want to view myself as the victim, as the downcast, as the outcast, as the brokenhearted. And if I see somebody else in that position, for some reason, it tends to make me uncomfortable. And so instead of helping that person and lifting them up, I tend to overlook that. I want to be the one who might need the lifting up, and I want to be the one to lift others up. But I often overlook those scenarios where that happens. I pretend that those situations don't exist. When somebody is in need, I I kind of overlook just the entire scenario, not the person, but you overplay it. You rationalize your way out of it. Well, somebody else is going to help. Somebody else will do this. Somebody else can lift them up. It's not my position. It's not my job. Who am I to say? Who am I to do this? And we do look on the. We do walk on the other side of the road. I'm too busy. I'm in a hurry. I've got someplace to go. So we cross the other side to the other side of the road, and we continue on with our way. But I think for all of us, and I'm really am looking at myself. Literally I'm looking at myself in this in the camera here when I'm saying this. It is important for us to pay attention, to stop and focus on those in need and lift them up, because sometimes we are in that role. We are in the role of the one who's beaten and robbed. But it's not just because we are in that role. Um, it's it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do when we see somebody who's in need, to help them out. And that's the that's what Jesus showed us and taught us, is that when you're in that position to be able to help, that's part of being human. That's humanity, is to lift each other up and to support each other. So let's continue to do that. Let's continue to support each other. Let's continue to lift each other up, and play more of the Samaritan role than the priest or Levite role. And when we are in that position of the person who's beaten and robbed, let's appreciate the people who are lifting us up. We can forgive those who cross over on the other side of the road, but let's not dwell on that. Let's not dwell on those people that, well, that person crossed over, that person passed me by. Let's be appreciative of those who come and take care of us, and let's pay it forward and do that in return. So let's continue with me on this journey. Let's continue to fight this good fight. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, please do so. Please subscribe so we can keep pushing forward together, so we can continue on this journey together. So thank you for watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can always go to, if you can kind of see my shirt, thefightwithdepression.com, and it's a little bit better. You can go to thefightwithdepression.com and follow us there. You can subscribe to that, see what we're doing, and continue with me on this journey. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time, God bless.